said grooving. Dig it, grooving. So groove on.
What up, everybody? This is Stuart Knight, author of the books Marginalizing White Supremacy, Poetic Visions, A Steep Mister for a Sister, and my latest work, A Spirit the World Has Forgotten. And today I'm trying to go off the cuff a little bit like I always do, so hopefully I'm able to put forth this understanding I want to bring forth with a little bit of clarity. So bear with me if my verbiage is a little off sometimes. But today I seen that video, the new video, the longer video that came out of the incident that happened in Washington a few days ago, where the group of Catholic white Make America Great Again students were confronting some black Israelites who were out on the Capitol steps proselytizing, the belief that, blacks are the original people of Israel, and we as black people should return to Israel to reclaim, our birthright, according to their philosophy. But and a lot came out not too long after that video. At the original video, small clipped video, had surfaced of the native individual. I ain't gonna say American because that probably is kind of a little disrespectful to the natives. Who was beating his tom-tom in an effort to calm the situation down a little bit, which did work in a sense, but due to him being surrounded by white supremacists, he was actually being mocked. Of the native individual, seeing that maybe that the incident was getting ready to get out of hand, and the black Israelites probably would have got stomped out, to use a colloquial phrase of today. But there was one thing that was very central in that video that I want people to recognize, is how, one, the youth of white supremacy via religious institutions still carry forth the westernized culture of dominance, in a sense, in the way that they formed that group or that crowd or that mass of them formed together and surrounded those very few black Israelites who beforehand were, very boastful with their language and very acerbic in the things that they were saying about, the white collective. How in that moment, those Catholic students, formed a union and gathered all around those black Israelites, and in a sense kind of made the Israelites tamp down their language a little bit. Now, that's the key thing we should look at as people in that situation. To notice how you can stand there as a black person and yell vehemently at the top of your lungs about all whitey this and cracker that and peckwood this and peckwood that. And the only thing them white folks is going to do in that moment is surround you, look at you, and laugh at you. Why? Because they still understand that you are powerless to affect them in any kind of way, monetarily or socially. So with the black Israelites standing there, recognizing that, one, they had been surrounded, and two, that their words wasn't necessarily inciting anger in those white supremacists, but mockery, realized in that moment how ineffective they actually were being in maybe trying to execute some kind of change in the mindset of the white supremacists. And see, that's the one thing that we should understand, that most of those kids that was in that group and most of those white folks that was out there in those collective religious organizations at that moment in time will not be affected in a sense by black people running about talking about, oh, we need to stand up and fight and fight a physical revolution against these white people, because they know damn well you would lose. All they would have to do is come together as a collective, surround you, and in that moment you will realize that there's just about nothing you can do. See, the most effective way for us as a people to actually move that white supremacy is to cultivate the best intellects we can within ourselves, to empower ourselves, to not necessarily run about running our mouths off, shooting off at the mouth as loud as we can for everybody to hear, but moving in silence and moving in quietude and building a philosophy amongst our very people that will one day effect white supremacy. Because it will affect white supremacy because we cultivate the best in us, who have an intent and a purpose on rebuilding our nation in a sense that we can have a collective power that will last for generations. Now, I know I'm not saying exactly what I wish I could say, but hopefully, the meaning of what I'm trying to get across really comes out. Look at that video if you can, the extended video, and really see, the unsaid inferences that are there, And look at how, those white youth, still carried forth that system of white supremacy that they are taught in their institutions, and how they came together as that collective, and how there was very few, if any, and I don't think there was any, whites who actually maybe came out of that group and actually approached, the black Israelites and said, what is this language that you're using really going to solve and build for your people? None of them came out and said that. Most of the whites, they stood there and looked at him and just laughed at him like, you're nothing. You're going to get nowhere with us. When we grow up and we graduate school, we're going to become your judges. We're going to become your law enforcement officers. We're going to become the legislators that rule you, and politicians, that filch you in a sense. And they know that. They very well know that. So they know that all that language, all that cussing and all that bad talk ain't going to affect their power in no way at all. That is why those of us out here who speak on white supremacy in the way of how to dismantle it is to cultivate the best within ourselves. That is why they see us as a definite threat, to their power structure. Because they know that the black people who really instill, the black first culture are going to definitely move in such a way to generationally over a long period of time and generations. Let me say it that way. The walls of white supremacy will come tumbling down, and keep in mind and look also that, even though that those young white supremacists was representing church organizations, they still had their make America great hats on. They was standing with the secular as well as the religious. So let's recognize that, black people. And if you look at that video, look at that. Look at how, in that moment, those white supremacists was on cold, and they surrounded the Muslims and engulfed them with a visual picture of what white supremacy is really all about and what we're really up against. Once again, this is Stuart Knight, author of the books Marginalizing White Supremacy, Poetic Visions, A Steep Metaphor Sister, and A Spirit the World Has Forgotten. Peace.